Crota's in returns tomorrow, and I want to go over my loadouts and also throw some predictions out there. All right, so jumping right into it, a thing I want to go over first is going to be artifact perks. This can be obviously for every single class, but some of these I think are going to be very integral to take for the day one raid. First off, Crota's in is a Hive raid, and the champion selection with Hive are going to be anti-barrier and unstoppable. So I would definitely try to take weapons that can have those champion mods, because for all we know, they may add champions in the raid just to spice it up a little bit. There has been champions in Vault of Glass and King's Fall, so obviously they are not scared to put champions in these reprise raids. Now, the other artifact perks you should take are going to be the Elemental Orbs and even the Thanatotic Tangles for your strand weapons. Being able to spawn these are just going to be some extra damage, and of course you want your entire team to run these so you can take the most advantage of them. Since they are locked to Void, Arc, and Solar, and even Strand if you take the Tangle one, that is the weapons I would definitely prioritize running. Now, other perks that will help out are things like Elemental Fury, so when champions are stunned, your abilities and orbs do more damage. This is obviously nice if there are champions in the raid. Also, things like Communal Pickup, so this will reduce your Tangle cooldown if you are running Tangles, but also if someone picks up your Elemental Orb, you will get a damage boost for 10 seconds, and with 6 people being around making orbs all the time, I'm sure you will pick up somebody else's orb at some point, so this is just a nice benefit to have, so you will have a damage buff. Now, refreshing pickups is also a nice one, so you'll get some cooldown whenever you pick up an Elemental Orb to your least powered ability. So again, there are going to be orbs everywhere, so this will just be extremely nice to just get some passive ability regeneration. And then the main perk is going to be Elemental Munitions. I would highly recommend everyone take this perk, because when you get kills with an Elemental Orb, you have a chance to drop special and heavy. This happens a lot, and obviously having ammo in a day one raid is very, very crucial. And I imagine using machine guns in the throwaway is going to be probably the best strategy, so being able to make more heavy ammo every time you make those orbs, it's going to be very, very good for that. Now, the other perks in this column are nice. Things like Elemental Embrace is nice to give you a big damage reduction to whatever subclass bonus you have. So imagine if you're running Arc and have Amplify, you're just getting a massive damage reduction to Arc damage. Now, Monochromatic Maestro is good if you have an ability spam base build, and if you don't have either of those, you can just take Frenzy Stack, so when you have Armor Charge, you will actually do more damage with your Elemental Orb to make sure you get a kill, so you can proc things like Elemental Munitions. So that's probably going to be your two best mods to take for sure. All right, so now I want to talk about predictions. So starting off right here, obviously we have the throwaway. This is just going to be a major clear encounter. The entire point of this encounter is just to run from lantern to lantern in a dark area while a bunch of thrall chase you, and knights will spawn at one point, and then at the end ogres will spawn. So this is just a slay out encounter. So obviously the best thing to take an encounter like this is for sure going to be clears. You see the thrall run out like crazy, and then once you get to the end right here, you do basically have to defend a plate by standing on it. There used to be a cheese back in Destiny 1 where you could get on a rock in the back left. I'm pretty sure you could also do the right one, and it would just form itself, so you can kind of ignore it. I imagine that's getting fixed with this day one. So you probably want like maybe things like wells right here, just a defensive super, so you can defend this plate. Be sure to capture it, because as you see, there are a ton of thrall that are running at you. But again, just clear scenario, and there could be anti-barrier knights and unstoppable ogres, so be on the lookout for those and definitely optimize your builds for those. Now, next up, we do have the bridge encounter, and the whole point of this encounter is to basically just form a bridge. So you have two people standing on these pillars while you have your other teammates killing a sword bearer, and then you bring the sword over and you will kill a specific knight that can only be damaged by a sword. Then once you have enough people, the two people on that side will stand on their plates, and then the bridge will start forming. Then everybody over here can get off, and again, kill the sword bearer, run over, kill the knight. And then in D1, they did change it, so after everyone's over there, a bunch of swords will spawn, and you have to kill a bunch of those knights, which is a ton of fun. On day one, that could be a little hectic, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't know exactly the changes they'll make to this, but again, in this account, there could be unstoppable ogres that spawn over here on this side, and then also maybe anti-barrier knights on this side. And a tip is that in this encounter, you can actually help each other out. So if you're not really doing anything on your side, you can run like a scout rifle or a sniper rifle and help shoot enemies on the opposite side. So taking a more longer range weapon could be very beneficial in this checkpoint. So if we let it fast forward a little bit, as you see, they're basically just doing the encounter. Again, it's just another clear encounter. The boss you have to kill, you literally have to do damage with a sword, and they do show that in this trailer. So I imagine that's still going to be the same mechanic. But again, just clear. Obviously, he's trying to defend a plate just so they can build the bridge. Again, and here's the little boss-esque thing you have to beat. But as you see, he does damage with the sword, and that's pretty much that encounter. And next up is the Death Singer, and this is going to be the most interesting one, because the way this kind of works is, shocker, another clear encounter. So things like machine gun stuff is still going to be really good for this. But you have to actually kill the Death Singer in a small time period, or she basically wipes your team. So having a DPS option will be pretty good for this. But the really interesting part is that normally in Crota, she is in the back of the room, basically where she's standing at right now in this trailer. She is just on the opposite side. So this just means this could potentially be changed up a little bit because she normally, again, does not stand right here. So this could be a full-on boss encounter now. So having actual DPS setups could be very, very strong for this. I have not looked at any leaks or spoilers or anything, so I don't know any changes that are made for this. But I think this does have potential to maybe actually be a full-on, boss encounter now. So, having things like wells to put on the left and right side, and it is a wizard, so maybe even run something like divinity just so you can definitely secure your crits. So any DPS situation would work in this scenario. I think this may actually be our DPS encounter to try to extend this raid a little bit longer because like I said, she's normally just not in this spot. So, and she also is shooting right here. So it's not like this animation where she teleports. It's like she's clearly here in the game and can try to shoot us. So potentially DPS, but again, normally the way it used to work, any at clear would set up, but be prepared. You may actually want to take DPS stuff for this encounter. Now, finally, we have Crota, and I could be wrong, but this plate looking thing looks new to me right here. So we could have to do something with this plate to maybe stand on it to do damage to him. A lot of people are speculating that they're going to make Crota an actual damage encounter, maybe use the sword to take his shield off and do damage with your weapons, because obviously if you just have somebody doing damage with the sword, you don't, it's not fun for the other 5 people. But if that is the way, typically what you want to do is just have like a tracking rocket, just have all your teammates shoot him at the same time, and then your sword bearer jump up, start sorting him the second he goes down. You try to time it so that last rocket that's about to hit that will take him down to jump up there. Things like burn effects are also good to secure his shield down, because in D1, if you just stop shooting him for a second, he would just pretty much instantly refill the thing. But there are a bunch of guardians up here, and obviously this is probably just like trailer fluff, so I don't exactly know the reason they're up here. But we don't particularly know if this is going to be a DPS scenario. If it is, obviously the things from your last encounter, if that is also a DPS scenario, will be good. And we also have a Titan just running up, swinging a sword at him while he's standing up, and a hunter shooting a hand cannon at him. So I don't really know how they're going to change this if they do change it. But if they don't, definitely be sure to have a tracking rocket, maybe someone throw a solar grenade on him or something, because that will be the best way to keep his shield down and get it down faster, and just also make sure you hit him. I imagine they probably are going to do something with his oversoul. Let me see if I can get back to a decent frame rate right here. So basically what would happen in hard mode, every time you took his shield down, this oversoul would spawn. You had to DPS it like crazy or it will wipe you. So they probably, they could up this health so you could, it would be more of a DPS scenario in that sense. You just shoot to the sky. I don't know how fun that would be, but I imagine that this is definitely going to play a major role into it. So your other 5 people actually are doing something at one point instead of just watching your sword bearer do damage. But we'll have to wait and see again. But this is kind of just my predictions of everything. And we'll see tomorrow how everything changes. But most of the time in this entire raid, you're pretty much going to be running at clear stuff. So with that, let's take a look at some of the weapons I'm going to be running. So for heavy weapons, definitely take a machine gun. I'm running fixed odds with a solar build, but I also do have my commemorations just so I can, at clear a lot, killers thrall. On top of that, I am going to be taking things like Apex, obviously for DPS, and even Cataclysmic if we end up using a linear fusion rifle. I have Yellow Horn just in case. I have Xenophage as well, which could be a pretty good option for maybe something like the Oversoul that spawns. I also have an Eager Edge Sword because potentially on the totem checkpoint, you could just Eager Edge your way through even with all the darkness on you. I don't know if this is something you would want to run, but if you have other means of ad clearing instead of a machine gun, this could potentially be a pretty cool strat if you are trying to speed run it or get a top tier placement. For energy weapons, I have things like Sunshot, which is one of the best ad clear weapons in the game now. I do have 3 SMGs, 1 for each element, depending on whatever build I'm going to play. So obviously SMGs are very good for ad clear as well, especially if you have perks like Volt Shot or Incandescent. Also, things like Forbearance is also obviously going to be very, very strong as well. For more DPS stuff or single target damage, I do have a Aramite crafted. Also have a Nessus Ablation, which is also a pretty good slug shotgun. And for longer range engagements, I do have a Doom of Chelches, so I can kind of shoot across on the brass checkpoint if I need to. Again, we'll have to wait and see how everything works, but that is kind of my philosophy behind that. Now, also, I'm going to be running a Heritage for just single target damage. Again, kind of just like Nessus Ablation. If you're running through the throwaway and there is a knight, I can just hopefully insta-kill it, especially with recombination on the gun. Things like Succession's also really good for taking out Boomer Knights in the Crota encounter or just taking out longer range targets. I also do have Izanagi's Burden just so I can do a Tom's 4 home Stone Dead Shot on maybe something like a champion just to instantly kill it. And if there is a DPS scenario, obviously I can Izzy Rocket swap as well. Also have a Riptide just again for a more single target damage thing. Also pretty good for doing some extra boss damage if there is an encounter. And fusion rifles are unstoppable with this season, so that's pretty good. I do have Rufus's Fury because I do have a Threatling base build set up if I do want to quickly swap one of my loadouts to it. Same with Virgil's Curve, exact same reason. Bows are also anti-barrier this season. This will be for my stasis build. Then I also am going to be running a Arbalist again for anti-barrier. Very good for single target damage. Has a bunch of ammo, and it may potentially even be really good at taking Crota's shield off if you think of something like the Ghost of the Deep Dungeon. Now, Osteo Sugar, because I will have a poison build set up. This is one of the best Actor weapons in the entire game. And I also do have some other stuff on my other characters, things like Conditional Finality for Unstoppable, Bastion for Unstoppable, Crimson, because you do not heal in the Crota encounter, at least you didn't in Destiny 1, so maybe I can use this to heal. Also things like Lumina, if I'm running a DPS setup, you know, I could give everybody a 35% damage buff. I also have Night Watch for a longer range scout rifle in the kinetic slot. With the Horde's always a great option to take as well. Things like A Scepter is really strong for Act Clear. In the Throwaway, you can just freeze an entire group of enemies with the special weapons, so that's really cool. You know, I do also have Quicksilver Storm if I want to run something like that. A Kinetic SMG. Touch of Malice, if there is a boss scenario and I need to just do some primary DPS if I'm out of ammo, obviously I will move this over to the character. I will move all these around. That's why I just have them dedicated on my other characters right now, so it's easy to move them. Also, things like Trinity Gold will be very, very strong for Ad Clear as well. Things like Graviton Lance, Cloud Strike potentially, Zalu's Bane if I want to run a hand cannon with a certain solar build. Also, Iterative Loop, which is a very good fusion rifle for DPS as well. For our heavy weapons, I do have things like Thunderlord for Ad Clear. I have a Tracking Rocket right here as well. Legend of Acris is also really good. I mean, even Anarchy might be okay in the Throwaway just to be able to, shoot an Anarchy and all the Thrall run into it. Parasite potentially could have a play on maybe something like Death Singers. Once you kill all the ads, you have a bunch of stacks, everyone goes in, shoots all their Parasite on the Death Singer, instantly kills her. That could be pretty cool. I do have a sword just in case. Obviously, I also have some other rockets for DPS if I need to swap any Surge mods up, and a Tractor Cannon if I need to debuff anything. And a weapon I did forget to mention is Leviathan's Breath. This does have Unstoppable, and it also does pack a punch. It will absolutely destroy whatever you shoot it at. So if there is a long-range ogre away that's blasting you, just put this on and you should be able to destroy it. But that's pretty much the weapons I'm going to primarily be running. Obviously, I can swap out anything as we go. But for builds, I would definitely have a loadout set up for each element and even have like a niche thing set up as well, depending on, what character you're playing. So for Warlock, I do have a Sunbraces build set up ready to go. If you want a more in-depth guide on this build, I did actually post a video yesterday if you would like to check that out. But Sunbracers are going to be very strong. They're really good for Act Clear, so obviously that's a major part of the raid. It's also obviously well radiant, so that's really good for your entire team. But on top of that, you can also do a bunch of damage with these grenades, even on single target with all the blobs of lava that come out. And, if you're running Surge mods, which I would highly recommend doing, maybe in Act Clear scenarios, you could take one Surge mod off for recuperation just to get some health back. Your Sunshot's going to destroy. So you're going to be able just to Act Clear like crazy with this specific build right here. But I also do have a Void build as well ready to go. So with Controverse Holds, you could run the Briarbinds if you want to play more into your Void Soul. But I just like being able to throw grenades everywhere. You suck everyone in with the Vortex Grenade. Again, Act Clear, so Commemoration, things like Unforgiven, so I can get my grenade back a lot faster with Devour. And Arbalist, again, for anti-barrier. So this is going to just be if I need to stay alive a little bit longer with Devour active. Also, I can weaken things for my team alongside provide extremely strong Act Clear. I have a Nova Bomb super as well, just to insta-kill maybe a champion that spawns or just any tougher target that's given us a hard time. And I think Void could potentially have a play. Now, I think if you are going to run Act Clear, Solar's probably going to be a little bit better though. But if you like Void and having that extra Devour just for your survivability is very, very good. And that grenade regeneration. Now, for Arc, I am going to be running a Fallen Sunstar base build so I can just ability spam like crazy. Again, more Act Clear, things like Volt Shot, Commemoration. I also am opted in just to take mods like Recuperation, Innervation, Absolution, because I'm never going to really use this for any DPS scenario. But if I want to provide my team with Arc Souls, since you are running together a ton in something like the Throwaway, you can have a bunch of Arc Souls also shooting. So being able to ability spam, jolt everything in the entire battlefield, I think Arc could also have a play for these Act Clear based scenarios. I do also have a Stasis build set up, and that is why I'm running Virgil's Curve, because this did get changed with things like Whisper of Fissures. It will absolutely Act Clear like crazy now, and plus, with this current seasonal artifact, things like Fusion Rifle are unstoppable and bows are anti-barriers, so you will cover the potential champions with this setup. And it's just a normal stasis turret build, so I can, have infinite stasis turrets. I can throw them down pretty much at every single totem or just any part where we need to just defend an area. Obviously, stasis isn't super strong right now, but the stasis turret build is always super nice because it basically just gives you an extra teammate. So instead of having 6 people, you'll have 7, potentially 8 if you are running the Osmio Mains and Gauntlets. And you could just slow and freeze everything down. So that is why I'm going to have one of these just in case. I don't know if I'm going to run it at all though, but potentially we will see. Now, I do also have a Strand build. This is going to be the Poison build. I definitely need to save Osteo for this setup. But this, again, is very strong for Ad Clear, Osteo with Necrotic Grips, and even Unravel with Necrotic Grips. It is just bonkers for Ad Clear. You can even take things like Mom's Magnification to suspend enemies. Also have single target damage with Eremite, even more Ad Clear with Commemoration, but you really only need Osteo for that. So you could opt in to take, something like Apex Predator or even a Cataclysmic, just linear fusion rifle, just for more single target damage. But this will be very, very strong for any Ad Clear scenario, and you just melt everything away. Now, I do also have a Threatling build because Threatlings are pretty strong this season. Being able to unravel everything with something like the Swarmers, spam infinite amounts of them, it could be potentially really good. Broodweaver is also very good for doing single target damage. So if you want to run a Broodweaver DPS setup, that is also a potentially thing you could do. I don't know how much I will run this build, but I do want to have it saved just in case, because most of the time, let's be honest, I probably am going to be running this build the majority of the time. Now, I do also have a DPS setup as well. So this is just me running Lunafaction boots with Well of Radiance. That's pretty much the build. Obviously, I just want to buff my team up so they can reload their weapons faster. I do have an Apex Predator and things like Eremite, so I can take advantage of Solar Stars mods. I may end up swapping whatever my special weapon is in the primary slot. I could do something like a Riptide as well, just have double fusion. Anything. This is just what I currently have. And again, I have every single option pretty much to swap to whatever DPS that we may need. But again, I feel like having a Ludofactions build ready just so you can buff your entire team is also a pretty solid thing to have ready. Now, that is all the builds I do have ready to take into this raid. I would highly recommend also having an Aeon Gauntlet ready. What these can do, if you get a finisher on a higher tier target, you will actually make heavy ammo for your team. So if you have everyone have these ready, that you can finish a bunch of enemies so you have a bunch of heavy ammo, and pairing that with things like elements of munitions to make even more heavy is nice. And another thing to note, if you take a heavy ammo finder, you can also make more heavy with that, and pair that with the heavy ammo scout, you will also make heavy ammo for your teammates with that as well. So that is also potentially very strong to run because, again, heavy ammo is, it's heavy ammo. It's really strong, and things like machine guns are going to be very, very beneficial, I feel like, on the first 2 checkpoints. But those are my day 1 loadouts. I hope this helps you out if you were curious about things I was going to be bringing into the raid. I hope this helps you make some decisions on some things you would like to do. If you were a Warlock, I would highly recommend a Sunbracers build, and make sure you take these artifact perks. And also remember to swap the elements depending on whatever stuff you are running, so you can obviously make those orbs. Anyway, so that is going to do it all for me. I wish you all the best of luck with the day 1 raid if you are competing. Be sure to stay healthy, drink tons of water, and definitely remember also to just have fun with it. Obviously, we don't get this but like 2 times a year at this point, so definitely make the most of it, and I hope you all have fun. If you did watch all the way through and enjoy, be sure to check out some other content on my channel. I've been trying to post a lot with the launch of this season, and pretty much every single build I have set up, I probably will make a build video at some point down the line. So if you all like to see that, just be sure to stick around. But thank you all so much for watching. Again, I wish you all the best of luck, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.